And welcome everybody to today's session on Microsoft Viva Goals. I'm very happy to be here at the Viva All Around the World event. I'm Kat Beedim and I'm actually one of the Viva Explorers. So I am one of the cheerleaders at the top here. That's me, so very happy to be part of this event today. What are we going to be talking about in today's session? Well, we're going to be talking about how we deployed Viva Goals. And when I say we, I mean the company that I work for. So we as CPS is the Microsoft partner I work for, and we've recently gone through the process of deploying Viva Goals internally. So I wanted to share how we did it, what the challenges were, and for those who aren't aware of Viva Goals or the kind of methodology behind it, I'm going to cover some of that as well, and do a little bit of a demonstration, but hopefully it should be a useful session. So before we start, just a little bit about me. So my name is Kat Beedim. I'm a Microsoft 365 Apps and Services MVP and a collaboration architect at CPS. I'm also a Modern Workplace team lead. So I have recently joined the role helping to manage the Modern Workplace team. That becomes more relevant as we go through today's session. I did just want to point out I'm on social media. So if you do want to follow me on Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok as well, I love a good TikTok video, and Instagram, please feel free to reach out. I am always looking to expand my network, so follow me on there. I'm all about Viva. So Viva is one of the areas that I specialize in, as well as Teams, SharePoint, and your classic modern workplace tools. But Viva is really something that I spend a lot of my time creating videos about, blogging about, and just kind of nerding out really in general. So let's get started. Now, I mentioned that we're going to be talking a little bit about how CPS, so the company that I work for, how we deployed Viva Goals. So I wanted to just kind of explain who we are. So CPS is a professional services company. It's just under 100 people, and we sell Microsoft technologies. So we help customers to deploy things like Viva Goals, or any of the Viva suites, or SharePoint, intranets, Power Apps, security, all of that good stuff. If anybody needs any help, any organizations need help with Microsoft technology, they can come to us, and we can help them. Now, at CPS, we are based in the UK, so we're based in South England, but all of our staff are remote workers, or most of the staff are remote workers, and they're dotted all around the place. So I'm actually based in Cardiff. We have people in Italy. We have people in Scotland and North England, and just dotted all over the country, as some of the benefits of hybrid working. But what that meant is that it's very, very difficult to communicate things to staff when you're not in the office. So as a company, obviously we have our goals and objectives that we want to achieve. So we want to give great service to customers. We want to grow and double the size of the company so everybody has jobs, and then we can hire more people. We can deliver more great services. We want to be the go-to partner for Microsoft technologies. All of these kind of very high level, good objectives that we wanted to achieve. There was a challenge around kind of communicating that to staff. So we thought about implementing Viva Goals to see how it would help us to bring a little bit of focus and help us understand exactly, or help our staff understand exactly how they're contributing to that higher kind of purpose. And of course, remote working, it can sometimes lead to decreased, employee engagement and a lack of that connection. So we kind of saw deploying Viva Goals, it will help us overcome that challenge. We'll foster a sense of purpose, bit of ownership. We'll align those individual goals. So those people who are on the ground, we're talking to customers, we're doing what we're doing. How does that help with what we're doing? So we saw that's kind of one of the reasons why we wanted to deploy it. We saw that as a good way to boost that employee engagement and satisfaction. We did have a challenge around collaboration and alignment. So our remote teams struggled with maintaining that alignment and collaboration, which can sometimes lead to potential inefficiencies and miscommunication. So the idea behind it was Viva Goals could offer us that centralized platform where all of our employees, can get a bit of transparency, bit of collaboration, encourage cross-departmental collaboration with the goals that they're setting and the tracking, and aligning individual goals with those team and company level goals. So we had a little bit of visibility. Everyone's working towards the same thing. We're gonna achieve those things, right? We are a data-driven company. That's something that our CEO says. It's something that we are. We use Power BI quite heavily. We use Azure DevOps. We use Project. All of these tools we are using because we're data-driven. Data drives all of our decisions, and without access to the kind of comprehensive data and insights, or having the data and insights just in their natural form in a Power BI dashboard, it helps to make those good decisions, but we could have improved it. We could improve making those informed decisions regarding, what we're doing as an organization. So that the connection between Viva Goals and what we were already using helps us to leverage that and identify areas for improvement. So that's why we did it. So now I'm going to just talk a little bit about, for those who maybe aren't aware, what Viva Goals is, what the methodology is, show you a little bit of a demo, and then talk about some of the challenges and what we did to overcome some of those. So you may have seen this slide before a few times today, if you've been watching a few different sessions. So if there's one thing you'll remember, it's Microsoft Viva and this slide. But I just wanted to kind of pick out the bit that we'll be focusing on today, which is the middle kind of pillar there, purpose. So the Microsoft Viva suite, obviously, it has those kind of 9 different applications that help with employee experience when it comes to keeping people informed and connected, building culture, promoting well-being, helping people share knowledge, grow, learn. But the bit that we're focusing on is aligning people's work to organization goals. Viva Goals, that bit in the middle there. So before I show you Viva Goals and some of the kind of features and functionality, I did just want to talk a little bit about the methodology behind Viva Goals, because Viva Goals is a tool to surface objectives and things that you're trying to achieve. But really, Viva Goals is just a way to showcase, a really good methodology, which was actually created, it's been around for about 50 years, this methodology. And the one that I'm talking about is Objectives and Key Results, or OKRs for short, because we love an acronym. So Viva Goals was built on this OKR framework. OKR stands for Objectives and Key Results, and they are a proven goal-setting framework. They create alignment, focus, and it builds an engaged culture to drive business outcomes. Now, what you'll be able to see is that on the top of this pyramid, we'll have a company that has a mission. We all have a mission. We then have underneath that mission and why the company was created, values and culture. So we have, we'll have typical values like we want to be responsive, we want to, have great work with customers, deliver great service, want to be respectful, we want to be, knowledgeable and experts in our field, and those types of values that organizations will have, and the values kind of drive that culture of the organization. Underneath that, you'll probably have, as an organization, some strategic priorities. So things we look to achieve. So at CPS, we have our strategic priorities of doubling our size, of delivering that service to customers, great service to customers, to be that go-to Microsoft partner. All of these very high-level strategic priorities, and they usually are included in like a 5-year plan. So we have, by this, in 5 years' time, we want to achieve this, this, and this. So they're kind of long-term strategic priorities. What we're missing from that is the bit below, is the thing that we're actually going to do to achieve those strategic priorities. How do we double in size? How do we improve our customer service? How do we, become that go-to partner? How do we actually achieve those things? And that's where your OKR framework fits in, because I can create very clear things that I'm trying to do, and I can prove that we're doing it. So we have the framework underneath, which is objectives. So this is what you want to achieve. This is something that is inspirational. It's something, one of our ones that was obviously maybe a favorite one of mine was we want to be the go-to partner for Viva at Microsoft. We want to, be the experts in that field. So the objective is aligning to those strategic priorities and values, but it's what you want to actually do. That's a little bit more achievable. We then have underneath that key results. So key results is your method of doing, and it's a way to kind of prove that you've achieved your objective. So how do we know that we've become the best or the go-to Viva partner at Microsoft? Well, we can do that by increasing the amount of Viva deals that we have by 10%. We can do that by increasing the amount of revenue from Viva opportunities by 25% and so on. So you get the idea. So key results is a way, as an activity, it's a thing that you can do, but it usually has a number that you can achieve. So we are going to increase this by this date. We are going to, increase the amount of leads, or, it's always a kind of a target, something you're going to achieve. And if we do increase our revenue with Viva opportunities by 25%, then, that helps to prove that we're achieving our objective of being that go-to partner. The level underneath that is your doing, your activities, your key initiatives and projects. So in order to achieve the objective of becoming the go-to Viva partner, we want to increase the revenue that we have, or the leads that we get from Microsoft, by 20% in the next quarter. What are the initiatives and projects that are going to do that? Well, marketing might have some initiatives and projects where they're running webinars. They're going to start a new campaign. Their, sales are going to do some training or an activity, or, it's the actual doing that feeds into the results and the objectives. So that's kind of how the methodology behind it is, that we have our mission and values, which are strategic, then our strategic priorities. We turn those into actual things that we can do on a regular basis. So that's the methodology. Now, in terms of writing an objective and key result, that's what you want to do first. You want to get this nailed before you turn on Viva Goals and start using it, because our experience from deploying it ourselves and with other customers is that when you turn on Viva Goals, you want to have a play around with it, and you put in a very simple, too high level objective that isn't really going to inspire anybody. It's very hard to create good key results from that. It's very hard for departments to kind of see what they're doing. It's not very clear. So it's very important that you have this nailed before you turn on Viva Goals. And in terms of how many objectives, 3 to 5 per quarter is the recommendation. One of the challenges that we faced is that we started with about 100. Maybe not 100, but there was a lot of objectives. And we also didn't include any key results. So it was just a list of objectives, which actually was a list of tasks. It's not a task management tool. That's not what we're trying to achieve. It was just a list of things we needed to do. And tracking, have we done it? Yes, great. But it didn't prove its value. We didn't, we needed to really understand this methodology. We also have other customers that we're working with who have exactly the same, they're going through the same process. They're trying to turn their tasks and things that they need to do and change their mindset so they can understand objectives and key results. Because the objectives, the strategy is like a, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, 5 years. Objectives you want to be able to achieve in a quarter. So be the go-to partner for Microsoft, we could achieve that in 1 quarter. And it's okay if we don't, and it's, if we need to extend it. Some objectives you might have for 12 months, that's absolutely fine. But the idea is that you want to have things that are achievable, that you can actually do. Not very, high, unachievable things, that we want to achieve in 5 years' time. Let's try and bring a little bit of focus. We don't want to get into that situation of everything's important, so nothing's important. Let's bring it down a little bit. So we want objectives 3 to 5 per quarter. They want to be aspirational. They want to be goals. They want to be things that you're trying to do. We want to inspire people to say, it's not just we want to double the size of our company. No, why? Why do we want to do that? We want to be the experts in our field at this, and expand this, and really try and inspire employees. Objectives can be for a company. Ideally, you start with a company level objective. You also have objectives that are department level. So marketing might have their own objectives that align with the company one. HR might have their own objectives. Sales might have their own objectives. And even down to individuals. So as an individual, I might have an objective that aligns to my department objectives, that aligns then to my company objectives, and it kind of cascades down. As well as 3 to 5 objectives per quarter, you ideally want to have some key results next to that objective. So my objective of we want to be the go-to partner for Viva, for Microsoft, I need to create a couple of key results. So how do I measure that we've actually achieved that objective? Well, key results will have a measurable outcome, and you can have multiple key results per objective. And that would be the recommendation. So if I want to be that best, Viva partner for Microsoft, we can achieve that by 1, increasing the amount of leads that we get from Microsoft by this much. 2, we can increase the revenue that we're getting or achieving for Viva projects by this percentage. 3, we can increase the amount of case studies that we have for Viva by 3. So we want to, add more case studies. 4, we want to, create have a project program in place to speed up, Viva deployments or whatever it may be. But the idea behind it is that we've got all of these things that touch on, different departments and different areas, but they all come together to help feed into that one objective that we're doing. And then the level below that are the key initiatives and projects. With us and for some other customers, this is it's optional in the sense of sometimes there isn't an actual project you're doing. It's just your key results or something that you're working on. But if there is a key initiative or a project, you can absolutely add those in to Viva Goals. So when you're tracking against the project, you can say, okay, are we on track to that project? Yes, we are. That's going to feed into the key result. That's going to feed into the objective. And what Viva Goals allows you to do is kind of automate and roll up those results and track against how you're doing as well. So once you have, I would highly recommend have that in place, get your objective key results. We at CPS started with the leadership team. So we started with the leadership team. We got the CEO, we got the leadership who were kind of, the director of commercial and sales and marketing and professional services. So kind of across the board to come together to decide what our objectives are going to be. So we've got our strategic objectives and our mission. Fine. Let's create some quarterly ones. And once we did workshops to really understand this methodology, departments were then able to kind of set their objectives and key results, which then cascaded down to kind of middle managers and other department heads being able to create their objectives, going down to individuals. So it kind of, you start from leadership, make sure everybody understands this methodology. And I say that because we started with Viva Goals and didn't understand them as a methodology and it didn't work as well as it should have. All right, so enough on objectives and key results. If there's one thing you take away from the session, it's get those in. Get that methodology understood and create some really good objectives and key results. Now that we have the methodology in place, we then can use Viva Goals to surface that information and make it visible. So Viva Goals is the goal setting tool that kind of supports this methodology. And it's going to be a tool that you can use to track how you're doing against your objectives. So are we actually achieving these things? Instead of an Excel spreadsheet and manually going in and tracking, have we increased that revenue by 25%? Well, I've got to check all these systems and then I've got to update this Excel spreadsheet and then send it as a PowerPoint to my CEO or my board. Let's get rid of all that. Let's get this tool in where we can put our objectives in, put our key results in, and automate that process. So let's take a quick look at Viva Goals. So I'm going to open up Viva Goals for you. What you can see is I've logged into Microsoft Teams. On the left-hand side, I have Viva Goals in here as my app. You can also access it on the browser. That's absolutely fine. And when you first go into Viva Goals, it'll kind of be empty. There won't be anything there. But as you start to use it to add your objectives, you'll be able to kind of start seeing it come together. So my organization in this case is called Acme, but say we're CPS. In here, you'll have a view of your objectives that have been created, and you'll see a little bit of information about the objective. You'll see the name of the objective, you'll see the owner of the objective, and you'll see the team. So this is the company level objective. You'll also see the status and progress. So you'll be able to see if the objective is at risk or if it's on track, and a bit of information about it. If you click into the objective, you'll see that we have underneath a child objective. So we want to work together to be, the best team we can be. And then I can cascade that down and I'll be able to see in here some key results. I'll be able to see in here some projects and initiatives, and it will kind of show me from a company level. This is going down then to the collaboration team. I can see the collaboration team have this objective. They have these key results underneath. Here's the owner of it, and are we on track, yes or no? Now, all of these key results and objectives will roll up to give me the overall kind of status of this objective. So if I'm on track, then it's going to update my results for me. Now, what we started with at CPS was one objective, which was not inspirational. It was kind of, we want to increase our revenue by 30% or whatever it may be. And then underneath we had quite a few department objectives. So we didn't have any key results. We had objective, 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 objective. Other organizations that I've worked with have done exactly the same. They've kind of gone down and said, instead of having key results to prove how we're going to achieve the objective, they just had a list of objective, 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 and it became a task list. So that's just something that to watch out for. That's why you want to get that methodology in, because you'll understand actually this design, build and maintain, this resilient product that we're doing. Ideally, I want some key results under here. So what I would do is I would go into the add child item button and I would go ahead and add my key results. In terms of adding objectives and key results, it's pretty easy. You just have to click to add and then increase, manufacturing or decrease, could be decrease manufacturing costs by 20%. I could then, instead of manually updating that information, so if we're trying to decrease our manufacturing costs by 20%, instead of going in and manually updating that, on a regular basis, I can automatically upload that from a data source. So at CPS, we use Power BI, Azure DevOps, Dynamics 365, Planner and Project, and all of these other tools to track kind of what we're doing day to day. One thing of the challenges that we had was we didn't integrate any of our systems. We just left it manual. So leadership had to go in and kind of update things and check in and see how we're doing. And people found it a bit of a nuisance because they had to manually go in and add numbers. Whereas if I was to choose automatically a role from a data source, I could choose a Power BI dashboard that we use, sign in, pick the dashboard. And what that will do is it will automatically pull in the information from that dashboard and update my results for me. So let me see if it's going to let me choose a Power BI dashboard. See if I've got a good one available. Let's have a look at sales is a good one. So let's go to sales, load data. We can choose specific content in there so we can filter it. And I can say, look, I want to look at, the total sales. Let's go connect. And that's going to automatically connect all my dashboard information directly to my key results. So then I can go ahead and hit create and it will automatically kind of update my my kind of measurement for me. Now, one of the things that we wanted to do as well is you don't just want to, you can see I'm on track and it's automatically just changed my status there and it's automatically changed the objective status as well. So it's going to pull that in automatically. That's something that we didn't do. It's something that I would highly recommend you do is set up those integrations. But at the same time, you do still want to check in. So the idea behind Viva Goals is that you don't just pull your objectives in, connect all your systems and then leave it to run. You do want people to be able to check in on things, update things. Are there challenges? Are there blockers? Are there solutions? Take a minute, take note. We want to bring focus into this. And so what we can do is we can check in, which means I don't have to, I'm not done yet. I know we're doing well on our target. You don't have to go in here and kind of put the progress in, but what we can do is we can put in a note. I'm gonna keep working on this. I could put a note to say we're doing really well because of these 3 things. That's what's working well. That's what we're doing. And I can hit, I don't want to close it. I want to check in. So I can edit progress and status, but it will automatically fill this information in for me. And I can then add a note. I can take, check in, say it's going well, because the team have collaborated well or yada, yada, whatever it may be. But you do want to do those check-ins on a regular basis just to make sure that we are kind of paying attention to what we're doing. And you notice there, it did have an opportunity to close off one of my objectives. So what I can do is I can close, which means you can kind of, finish the progress, give it a score, a closing note. Yes, we achieved this objective. Great. I can then hit close, and that will close that off for me as completed. So the idea is you want to be completing these as well as kind of just inputting them into the tool. And not only that, but we have one of the other kind of challenges that we found was if you had a kind of board meeting, so we'd have these meetings to explain how we're doing and tracking against things, and we'd have the Power BI dashboards, great. And then we'd have to kind of figure out and align that somehow to our objectives. And, it could have just been a little bit more streamlined. And so what we started utilizing was the dashboard feature in Viva Goals. So what I can do is I could create dashboards which pull in my information from my objectives and key results, and I can compare this to other quarters, to previous months. I can look at it quarter on quarter. So I can get a timeline view of how we're doing if it's a long-term goal, or compare it to other objectives. That's absolutely fine. What I can also do is add check-in notes. So I can add a little bit of information about, okay, this is what's gone well, this is the challenge, this is what we've needed to do. And you can present that directly in Viva Goals without having to kind of screenshot things and put it into PowerPoint. You still can do that if you want to, but the whole idea behind it was for us to really kind of get all that data that we're using to drive our decisions, get it into a methodology that works, that gives us focus, that we can kind of pull together. And what you'll see in here as well is that we do have organizational level objectives, but I also can look at my department level objectives. So I can see what I'm trying to achieve this quarter, my key results, my initiatives, what I'm implementing, what I'm doing, and how I'm tracking against it. And of course, then I can look at OKRs that are assigned to me. So ones that I own, ones that I'm going to kind of take that ownership of. Now, typically the owner is the person who will go in, check in, and make sure that we're closing the objective off. I'm the owner. I could be a department head. I could be a manager. You can assign multiple owners, and you can assign delegates. So if you have somebody who's going to be checking in the tool for you, you can assign a delegate absolutely in there as well. One thing that will happen with Viva Goals is that you will receive notifications. So this is something that we found incredibly useful to remind people to check in. And the recommendation is to check in on a weekly basis. We found that weekly was maybe too much, and it was bi-weekly, or for some people, for those longer term goals, they were monthly, they were checking in. But you want to set up notifications to make sure that people are being, informed that they need to go in and check the tool, see how they're tracking, see how they're doing. So notifications are set up by default, but what you can do, if you're an admin, you can go into the admin dashboard and go in and create a check-in rhythm and an update rhythm. So you can send those notifications out so people know they've got to check in, and you can change the time zone in there as well. Some of the other things that we found quite useful was changing, the time period. So we changed our time period to match our planning year. So what you'll notice is all of our objectives and key results, they have a time frame next to it. So I'll be able to see if we're trying to do this this quarter, next quarter, in a year, 12 months. So the time frame mismatched ours, because our financial year is April, whereas it's kind of set as default to January. So if you go into the admin dashboard, you can set your time period and change it. So when you add your objectives and key results, all the time periods the quarters will reflect that change. One other thing that we found quite useful is to change the objectives and how they were configured. So you can change how the objectives look in Viva Goals depending on how you're using the tool. So we wanted to make sure that all objectives could be nested under key results. So in here, under this key result, so this might be a department objective. We have a company objective, company key result, but then this might be a department objective underneath the key result. So if we want to hit this revenue, we need to improve our sales pipeline by this much. So that's something that you can change. You can untick and it won't allow people to add that. But you can go in, you can allow key results to be nested under key results if you wanted to. You can turn off initiatives. So that's this kind of green bit, the projects and initiatives. change how those are nested. So depending on how you want to use the tool, you also have some of these features as well, which we found quite useful because we did want to have objectives sitting under key results when we kind of did that workshop to work out what was going on. So that is a quick, just a quick overview for those who maybe haven't really seen the tool, don't really know what OKRs are. But in terms of some of the challenges and things that we faced and how we would kind of do it again if I guess we started it from fresh. One of the challenges, well, overwhelming number of OKRs. We didn't even have OKRs. It was a list of objectives. It was a list of tasks. What we did was kind of didn't understand the methodology before kind of implementing the solution. And we had a list of things that we were trying to achieve. They were not inspirational. They were just tasks that were assigned to different people. We also didn't start with just leadership. We started with leadership, but then we also had individuals, we had managers in as well, some of them who were introduced to the tool and then had stuff assigned to them, kind of using it as a task management tool. But we had too many objectives. We had too many things we wanted to achieve. We fell into that trap. And so what we did in terms of the solution was we reviewed our objectives. So the recommendation would really be to review on a regular basis. Quarterly, we want to have objective kind of meetings in there. We want to reevaluate the number that we have. We want to balance the workload. We want to increase focus. So we emphasize the quality and meaningfulness of our objectives over the quantity. Just because you have more stuff in there doesn't mean you're busier, you're achieving more. That was our problem. So having the kind of making sure people understand it's focus, it's not everything. It's just, 3 to 5 per quarter. The recommended one anyway. You don't have to kind of do that if you don't want to. We tried to achieve 100% on everything, so we're very hard on ourselves. We thought if we do not achieve our objectives and we'll achieve them at 100%, we're failures and we have all these problems, we need to fix them, and oh my goodness. So the idea is that OKRs are improvement goals. We don't, it's not the end of the world if we don't achieve them. It's a flexible tool. We can move the goals out to different quarters. We can, push things out. We can score things below if we kind of achieved it, but not fully. That's okay. Let's reflect why and what we can do next time to improve. So they're improvement goals. They're not, we have to achieve 100% on everything. And that was a message that we had to get across to people. Business goals versus BAU. We ended up putting our business as usual activities in there. So our utilization of staff, our cybersecurity things that we had to achieve. Those might be very important objectives for some organizations, but for us, it was just business as usual. That's stuff we're carrying on with every day. Let's get a bit higher level than that and see, put some inspirational goals in there. And why are we doing this, BAU activity? How does it align with what we're trying to achieve? So it was really important for us to just to emphasize it's not a task tracking tool. We've got other tools for that. We want to track our goals and objectives and what we're trying to achieve. Manual tracking was one of the biggest mistakes. So we didn't turn on initially any of the integrations, didn't set them up, and thought, let's just test it out and do some manual tracking. It didn't work. We had all this data, great, but we ended up manually putting it into Viva Goals, and you absolutely do not want to do that. So Viva Goals integrates with Azure DevOps, Salesforce, Dynamics, Project for the Web, Planner, all of these great tools that most people are probably using. You can integrate those so it automatically puts those key results in for you. You still want to check in, but you don't have to sit there and manually type in a number, and you also get a more accurate view if you're pulling from a data source. So we started turning on our integrations and it made life a little bit better and really, really improved the tool. So a couple of recommendations in terms of these challenges and solutions. So it would be starting with the leadership team and starting with an OKR workshop. What are OKRs? What are the objectives going to be? Really get people understanding that methodology before even showing them Viva Goals. Then we can train on Viva Goals. We can put in those objectives together. We can all kind of come to an agreement and say, yes, that's, how we want to start. We want to have quarterly meetings to review the objectives and close any objectives off that we've achieved and make sure that we have ownership over them. People are tracking against them. And then if that's working well and we're actually moving forward and we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, we can then begin to roll that out to other areas of the business. So leadership, then going down to our department heads, and middle managers, who then get an OKR workshop and they get training on Viva Goals. They understand the methodology before they start using the tool. And then finally, when that starts working well, we have individual contributors who then, again, get told about the methodology, they get trained, they get communicated on why it's going to help them and why it's important. And then they are able to get some training on Viva Goals and they can use it for their kind of tool to go in and see how they align with the organization. So that would be the recommendation, is to start with a smaller group leadership and then cascading down from there. Some organizations have run pilots, which have worked quite well, just to try out and test the methodology and the tool and see if it fits in with what they're doing. So different ways to do it. But yes, I would say that's probably how it's benefited us anyway. So just lastly, then I wanted to cover some benefits that we found. So first, alignment. So we were making sure that everyone is rowing in the same direction. We're pulling on the same rope, however else you want to say it. But we were kind of doing that anyway. So luckily there wasn't any objectives that people were coming up with that were just way off. Everybody kind of knew what we needed to do, but this allowed us to view that and see that and get confirmation. Yes, I'm doing this properly. It gave us focus. We didn't have focus. We tried to do it a million things at once, 3 to 5 per quarter. We could actually close things off. It's so satisfying when you close off an objective to say, yes, we've done it. We achieved this. It also gives people the power to say no. If somebody asks you to do something that's not aligned with the objectives, then you can say, look, it's not a priority right now. I don't have capacity for that. Transparency, we can see exactly what we're trying to achieve. We have clear accountability. We can see any challenges. It gives people that chance to kind of take note and say, right, is this working well? Is it not? How can we overcome it? And agility as well. So of course we've got some of our objectives rolled into other quarters. We did end up having some year-long objectives that then had quarterly, key results and quarterly objectives underneath it. So the tool is agile and it can work for how you're doing it, but just make sure that you're kind of sticking to the methodology as best you can. And then growth, we can actually achieve what we're trying to do. So all those ambitious outcomes of, we want to double the size of the company, we want to deliver a great service to all these customers, all of those great strategic goals and priorities we can actually achieve by breaking them down into little chunks of objectives that we can actually close off our to-do lists. So we found incredible value from it. And honestly, I think we've gone through challenges. Every single customer I've worked with has gone through the same, has come into it with the same mindset of, let's chuck all our stuff we want to do. We had a customer who put 20 objectives in, first of all, 20 company-led objectives with no time frame and no owner and no nothing. So don't worry if that's, if you're in that situation, but we can learn from it and absolutely, kind of do it properly in the first place. So hopefully that's been helpful and a bit of insight and maybe made you feel a bit better, and hopefully won't fall into the same kind of challenges that we did, but we got there in the end. And I think it's really helped us give a good service to customers, because when we roll out Viva Goals for our customer, we know exactly what to do, exactly what not to do, and we can do it successfully as well, which is quite nice. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you found the session useful, and enjoy the rest of the day. But that's it from me. Thank you so much.